It's indeed been very illuminating to hear the speakers before me and talk about the various aspects of the small and medium enterprises, what kind of problems, what kind of prospects, where are they right now, and where are they going in the coming days. It would actually be extremely ignorant to deny like the role that the SMEs play in the development of the industrial development and the development of any country, whether it is the developed countries of today's world, like the US, the Japanese, Europeans, or the developing countries, the newly developed countries like Korea, China. In all of them, the small and medium enterprises, as it is generically known, have played a very, very significant role and continue to play a very significant role, not only merely in terms of contributing to the GDP, but pushing the frontiers of innovation, pushing the frontiers of economic growth, of social homologization as such, and taking it forward step by step into the next level. In India, while we all recognize the importance of the small scale sector, and we have been doing so since the Nehruvian days, like 1950s and all that, despite the focus shifting to the commanding heights of economy in the 50s, late 50s, there were always a recognition of like the employment imperative, and there was always a great thrust on dispersal of industries, mainly through the small scale sector. We experiment with various formats and all. But despite all this long history that we have in India, not just, I've only talked about the post-independence period, but including, like if you look at it before independence also, we had a very dispersed, very thriving kind of a local industry. Somehow, the Indian small sector has not really been able to achieve its potential. It has suffered many, many disadvantages. And I'm sure the study that you have done and that you bring out, I think, annually? Yes. It's an annual report. And a multiple, number of studies and all that. They talk about the way forward. They talk about a number of constraints. We talk about the high cost of capital. Friend from HSBC, he talked about how you can bring your capital costs down. We have had some success story. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan was talking about one of the clusters we developed in Machilipatnam, which has come up to a fairly robust sort of stage now. But the problems remain. They're not limited. It's a kind of whole ecosystem of problems. There are the issues related to regulatory controls. There are the old usual suspects of high capital cost, poor infrastructure and all that. But essentially what happens, my basic, at the bottom of the pyramid, at the base of this problem, is the fact that our small scale industry is very narrowly defined and really too small. Actually, it doesn't have, it sort of never is allowed to grow into a viable, sustainable unit. And we define small scale industries as what? Some 10 crores investments? In plant and machinery. So 10 crores, 5 crores. Otherwise, we don't give Pavla Vaddi, right? So if you define an industry 5 crores, these days people build homes for 5 crores. Some of those homes are not sustainable. Leave alone, how will you run an industry? And the whole law is distorted in such a way, the sort of, the ecosystem, labor laws, whether it's labor law, the other things also, all the regulatory functions, they restrict the size to something which is simply not viable, simply doesn't have the scale, simply doesn't have the bandwidth to be competitive, to be globally competitive. The Brookings Institution carried out a study sometime back. They interacted with me in the days when I was in Delhi, and the main thing, the theme was that India's problem of the missing middle. Most countries, the most important sector of industry is industries which employ from 100 to 500 people. I don't know in India how many, it's extremely skewed. I don't recall the figures offhand, My office, thanks to your association of British Airways, thought that this was something on aerospace and aviation and has given me talking points. Otherwise, I would have been better prepared with my statistics. So I'm talking off the cuff.